He thought it was just another late-night stop, routine, forgettable. But the woman behind the wheel wasn't just another driver. She was a decorated officer, trained to face war zones, now forced to defend herself on her own streets. This is the story of what happens when power meets poise, and one silent moment becomes a national reckoning. Buckle up, because nothing about this ride is ordinary. It was 11:17 p.m. when Camille Jordan turned onto Route 14, just past the welcome sign that read Ashfield, to honoring our veterans. The irony didn't strike her yet. The roads were empty, the gas stations shuttered, and the streetlights buzzed like mosquitoes in summer heat. Her black government-issued SUV moved like a whisper through the sleeping town. She'd just finished a logistics briefing at Camp Thatcher, dressed in plain clothes, still in posture but softened by exhaustion. Camille was headed home. Then, flashes of red and blue lit up her rearview mirror. Sergeant Bradley Mace, 15 years on the force, sat bored in his cruiser moments earlier. No calls, no action. Then he saw her vehicle, federal plates, unfamiliar, and something inside him clicked. He needed a win, something to write down, something to remind people who gave orders in this town. He flipped on the lights and pulled out behind her. Camille slowed to the shoulder, her hands steady on the wheel. She rolled the window halfway, just enough. Mace approached aggressively. No greeting, no explanation, just the beam of a flashlight in her eyes, and a sharp command. "Step out of the vehicle." She didn't move. "Officer," she said evenly, "may I ask the reason for this stop?" No response. Just a louder, "I said, step out." Camille blinked once. No emotion. Her fingers moved slowly to her phone. "This is being recorded," she said, as she tapped the screen. Mace reached for the door handle himself. "We're doing a sobriety test." She stepped out, no resistance, no fear. Her back was straight, her chin lifted. She looked like someone who'd stood through worse. Under the street lamp, she performed each test flawlessly. No stumble, no hesitation. Still, he handed her a citation. Failure to maintain lane. Camille took it without a word. She returned to her vehicle, folded the ticket carefully, and placed it beside her. Her eyes fixed on the empty road ahead. There were no tears. Just the quiet weight of being disrespected by someone who saw her as nothing more than a woman behind the wheel. Sergeant Mace returned to his cruiser, unaware that he had just declared war on the wrong person. At the Ashfield Police Department the next morning, the break room buzzed with half-slept sarcasm and stale coffee. Sergeant Bradley Mace leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, enjoying the spotlight. "Lady last night thought flashing a government ID would scare me off, like I was supposed to bow or something." A few officers chuckled, until Officer Ray Connolly, leaning on the doorframe, looked up sharply. "What was her name?" Mace shrugged. "Jordan. Camille, I think." Connolly froze. "Camille Jordan? She lectured at the academy last fall. Sir, she's a lieutenant colonel." The mood shifted. Silence filled the room as Connolly added quietly, "She runs logistics for the entire Eastern Command." Elsewhere, at Camp Thatcher, Camille sat in her office with the blinds drawn and her laptop open. The grainy footage from the night before played back in slow loops. Every command, every glare, every refusal to explain. The audio was clear, too clear. A knock at the door. Staff Sergeant Cole Vickers stepped in. "Ma'am? Is there something I should know?" Camille didn't flinch. "I'm not staying quiet, Cole. Not this time." That afternoon, she called Marla Quinn, an attorney known for dismantling abusive cases involving military personnel. The call was brief but sharp. "This isn't about me," Camille said. "It's about everyone who didn't have a camera in their jacket." Marla agreed. The wheels began turning. The legal grounds were solid. Abuse of authority against a federal employee, civil rights violations, unlawful detention. Back at the precinct, Mace received a sealed envelope, a notice to appear before the Eastern District Civil Court. He scoffed and shoved it in his locker. Chief Alton Granger summoned him to the office. "You know who she is now, don't you? Camille Jordan. She's not just some driver, she's the backbone of our regional operations." Mace sneered. "Doesn't matter. On the road, I'm the law." Outside the courtroom drama, Camille prepared the case file alongside Marla. "You want to go public with this?" the lawyer asked. Camille stared out the window at the dusty training fields of Camp Thatcher. "I'm not hiding anything." As a military jeep rolled past, kicking up clouds of dust, Camille's gaze stayed fixed, focused, unflinching. The battle had begun. Quiet, steady, and irreversible. Stacks of paper, printouts of policy codes, and still frames from video footage covered every inch of Marla Quinn's conference table in her Louisville office. The morning light poured through the blinds, casting sharp lines across the room like a battlefield in waiting. Marla, glasses perched low, paced slowly in front of her legal team. "We're not just suing a man," she said, voice low and precise. "We're challenging how this system treats a decorated black soldier like she's disposable." The lawsuit was filed at the Eastern District Civil Court by noon. 3 charges: abuse of authority, unlawful intimidation, and illegal detainment of a federal officer. WPKY News 5 picked up the story that same evening. A tweet with a snippet from Camille's phone video, Mace's voice demanding, "Step out now or you'll regret it," began to spread, gathering traction. The public didn't know the whole story yet, but they knew enough to be uncomfortable. Inside the Ashfield Police Department, Mace sat stiffly in front of his attorney, a seasoned civil defense lawyer named Trevor Hill. The office was tense. Trevor pressed pause on the body cam footage. Right at the moment, Mace's hand hovered near his holster, his tone hard, threatening. "You followed procedure?" Trevor asked. "I acted on instinct. She didn't obey," Mace replied. "Did you explain the stop?" "No." "Any attempt at de-escalation?" Silence. Then, the line that would haunt them. "If I knew she was military, I'd have done things differently." Trevor's jaw tensed. "You just said everything the jury needs to hear." 2 weeks later, the courthouse was packed. Reporters huddled near the entrance. Court officers kept them at bay. Inside, the room was charged with unspoken tension. Camille Jordan entered without a word. Full uniform, clean lines, bronze star gleaming. She didn't scan the crowd. She didn't need to. Every eye was already on her. Mace sat at the defendant's table, staring down at his notes, jaw tight. He didn't look up as she walked past. Judge Leonard Blake opened the file. The room was silent, save for the flipping of pages. Camille hadn't said a word yet, but already she had shifted the weight of the room. The courtroom opened under a gray Kentucky sky, but the tension inside felt heavier than the clouds. Reporters filed in, silent, their cameras prepped but still. Soldiers from Camp Thatcher in dress blues sat quietly among the townspeople of Ashfield, filling every bench. No chatter, no smiles, only the quiet weight of what was coming. Camille Jordan sat beside Marla Quinn at the plaintiff's table, her posture composed, her eyes fixed on the witness stand. Not defiant, not shaken, just still, like a pillar carved from something older than fear. Marla stood first. The court lights dimmed as she played the footage from Camille's phone. The room watched Sergeant Mace step toward the car, flashlight blinding, voice clipped and loud. No explanation, no attempt at civility. Then, the door yanked open. Next came the footage from Mace's own body cam. From his belt, the camera captured everything. The narrowed eyes, the hovering hand near the holster. The line that echoed across the room like a slap, "You'll regret it." The air went tight. Someone exhaled sharply. Another shook their head in disgust. Camille rose slowly when called. She didn't glance at the jury or the crowd. She looked directly at the judge. "I've coordinated military supply chains across 3 continents," she said, voice even. "But that night, I was just a woman questioned for asking a question. I wasn't asking for privilege, I was asking to be heard." Then came the line that didn't just hang in the air, it carved through it. "Silence doesn't keep you safe. Proof does." Chief Alton Granger, called as a witness, confirmed her role. Head of logistics at Camp Thatcher, respected trainer at the academy, widely regarded for her integrity. When asked if this incident had broader impact, Granger nodded. This wasn't just a mistake. This touched something bigger. Trust. Between the people and the badge. Then came the moment no defense could smooth over. Marla turned to Mace, standing at the defense table. If you had known she was Lieutenant Colonel Camille Jordan, would you have handled it differently? Mace hesitated. His voice fell to a whisper. Probably. The courtroom didn't gasp. It just went still. There was no need to speak what everyone now understood. Camille left the stand with quiet dignity. The camera lifted upward, framing the American flag hanging high above the judge's bench, fluttering gently, almost uncertain. Liberty, honor, justice. 3 words, no longer slogans, but questions. And the room was full of people who now had to answer. The courthouse steps were crowded by sunrise. Locals, veterans, reporters, some held signs, most just watched. Inside, the air was sharp with quiet anticipation. Judge Leonard Blake cleared his throat, his voice steady, official. Sergeant Bradley Mace is found liable for violating procedure and infringing on the constitutional rights of Lieutenant Colonel Camille Jordan. Damages awarded, $35,000. This ruling will be referred to the Department of Justice and the Office of Federal Oversight. No cheers, no gasps, just silence, the kind that settles like dust after a storm has passed. At the plaintiff's table, Marla Quinn leaned over and whispered, "We won." Camille didn't blink, her eyes remained on the bench ahead. "This wasn't a win," she murmured back. "It was a lesson paid for in patience." Across the room, Mace rose stiffly. No reporters chased him, no officers shook his hand. His badge, once a symbol of authority, glinted dully in the morning light as he walked out, alone. One photographer caught the shot. A man leaving not just a courtroom, but something heavier. Outside, the story exploded. Camille Jordan, lead with honor, proof not pride. The clip of the courtroom verdict topped Twitter for 3 straight hours. WPKY News 5 aired a special, Camille Jordan, the story behind the lens. Military newspapers ran op-eds titled, "She." Across bases and barracks nationwide, service members posted their thanks. Veterans groups issued statements. At a small high school in Ashfield, a teacher played Camille's testimony for a civics class. One black student raised his hand. "If that ever happens to me," he asked, "can I do what she did?" The teacher didn't answer right away. She just replayed the part where Camille stood straight, spoke soft, and told the truth. Later that afternoon, Camille stepped out of the courthouse. The sunlight filtered gently across the steps. She paused, unpinned her medal, and slipped it into her coat pocket. A reporter caught up, breathless. "Ma'am, is there anything you want to say to the people watching you now?" Camille looked out at the horizon and answered calmly, "I didn't drive through this town just to get home. I drove through so someone else could stand still and not be afraid." 2 months later, inside the marble halls of Capitol Hill, a Kentucky state senator stood before the subcommittee on military affairs. Behind him, a screen displayed the quiet, steady face of Lieutenant Colonel Camille Jordan. "The Floriano Clause," he said, his voice firm. "A federal provision to protect military personnel from abuse of authority in civilian encounters, is now under formal review. This began not in Washington, but in a small courtroom in Ashfield. With one woman, one moment, and proof that silence doesn't have to mean surrender." The room listened. Across the country, Camille had already returned to Camp Thatcher. No cameras, no podiums, just rows of desks and cadets in training. Her office window looked out onto the parade field. Sunlight filtered through the oak trees, and on her desk, lesson plans sat open, marked in neat ink. She no longer fought in a courtroom, but her mission had only shifted, not ended. One afternoon, in a seminar on ethics and military conduct, Private Maya Jennings, young, sharp-eyed, curls pulled into a tight bun, raised her hand. "Ma'am," she asked hesitantly, "what if they don't believe me? What if they ignore me just because I'm new, or not what they expect?" Camille walked toward her, slow and deliberate. She didn't raise her voice. Instead, she gently tapped the pen in Maya's hand. Then you write it down, you record it, and you hold the line. Her fingers brushed Maya's name tag, then tapped the brass insignia on her chest. This doesn't make them respect you, your actions do. Don't ask for honor, live it, and when the time comes, let it speak for you. The room held its breath. Maya nodded once, her spine straighter than before. Outside, the fields of Kentucky stretched wide. Gold grass waved in the breeze beneath a sky brushed with soft blue. In the distance, a black SUV rolled down a country road, unbothered, unstopped. Not because someone yielded to power, but because they understood what it meant to carry it right. As the car disappeared behind a bend, a final line rose against the clouds. Power with no honor is just noise. Lead loud, even when you whisper. There were no applause, no speeches, no medals pinned that day, just a legacy, quiet, enduring, and ready to be passed on. Not every battle is fought with fists or fury. Some are won through patience, truth, and the courage to say enough. What matters isn't how loud you speak, but how deeply your words echo when the noise fades. This story reminds us that dignity doesn't demand attention, it commands it. And sometimes, the quietest voice leaves the deepest mark. If this left something with you, share your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay with us for more stories that speak, even when the world tries not to listen.